You know that jingle that you hear once and then it's stuck in your head? For me, that's the 2022 NFL Draft jingle and Roger Goodell saying, with the first pick in the draft. Hello and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm CheRanda Hammond alongside Jude Wozniak and Mac Young. We are about 1 week away from the 2022 NFL Draft in Las Vegas, and there are a lot of prospects and possible trades. So let's get started with the 4th edition of Penn State Sports Night Mock Draft. Jude, I'll start with you. What picks do you have on your board for this draft?
Well, CheRanda, I'm a little bit all over the place to start. People usually have Aiden Hutchinson at the pick 1. I'm going with Travon Walker from Georgia. Now, it's a little bit controversial because Walker doesn't have the same amount of stats as Hutchinson, but he tested a lot better than him. He's an athletic freak. He could play inside, he could play outside, he could play middle linebacker, off-ball linebacker, anywhere. He ran a 4.5 140. Aiden Hutchinson ran a 4.71, so a little bit slower. Aiden Hutchinson's still a freak in nature, in my opinion, but I'm taking Walker over Hutchinson just because I think he's a little bit more talented. And then you move down, you see Evan Neal moving down a little bit for me, and that's because he didn't test. So that raises a couple questions for me that you're not testing. He was also a little bit out of shape when he weighed in, so it's kind of confusing with me why he didn't test, because he seemed pretty healthy, especially during pro day, but he just decided not to test. And then you could see I have a little trade here. We'll talk about it a little bit later between the Seahawks and Panthers. But Charles Cross goes to the Seahawks, and Malik Willis is going to the Panthers. And then Drake London at 9 for the Falcons. I think that this is an easy pick for them. Drake London is basically Julio Jones reincarnated. 6'4", 80-inch wingspan, a freak of nature, extremely fast. A little bit of an injury history this year with that bad ankle injury, so something to look out for, but Drake London's a beast, and he should be taken at that 8th spot. You can look a little bit down here. Houston is a team to look out for also for a trade. If Kyle Hamilton's here, people are going to be throwing picks at them to trade for him, but I think Kyle Hamilton's a great pick. I think he's a top 3 player probably in this draft, but since he didn't test well, he's going to fall. He ran roughly a 4.6 40, and that's not what you want to see from a safety, but you can just see it from the film. He is a ball hawk. He can run across the field with ease and just a dominant player. And then we move on a little bit. We could see the Eagles taking Nakobe Dean. Mac's going to talk about it a little bit. Eagles never take linebackers in the first round, but if they don't take Nakobe Dean, this is the wrong draft class for them. He is the for sure pick at 18 or even 16 for them. They need to take a middle linebacker. That's one of their biggest needs, linebacker and corner. They need to take one of those in the first round, and if they don't, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to scoop them up. It's something that the Steelers need in middle linebackers, of course, so I can see them taking Nakobe Dean. However, I have a bad feeling they're going to make the wrong choice in taking Kenny Pickett or Ritter or even Corral if he's there. I don't think that's what they should do. I don't think they need a quarterback. I'm a big person that is about take the best player available, not your sort of position of need available, because he's probably worse than the best player available. With teams that have a bad record or are on the bubble of maybe being good, you're just maybe one good difference maker away. You don't need the biggest position need always. Take the best player available. Looking at the Packers a little bit, they got 22 and 28. They're taking Chris Olave. Who's Aaron Rodgers throwing to? 80-year-old Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard. He needs receivers. That's abysmal over there. They traded Devontae Adams. I didn't like it, but Devontae Adams is happy over there in Las Vegas now. And then they take AK-47 from Penn State, Ebiketie, and I think that's a great pick for them to take the edge rusher because they need edge rushers after losing Zadarius Smith. They are lacking in that position, so I think that's a perfect pick for them. And Tyler Lindenbaum. Mac's not going to agree with this, with him going that late, but he's a very small center and even guard. He is tied for the 6th shortest wingspan since 2002 while getting drafted. That is very small. He has a 31 1/8 inch wingspan. That is incredibly small for a center. D lineman could just toss you around and your arms are already completely extended and you can't even touch them. His arms are extremely short. However, he did test well. He was hurt for the combine and his pro day, but he held his own pro day, tested extremely well, ran the 40 extremely well, top 3 in his position. He did the broad jump, top 2 in his position, and the vert, top 3 in his position. So Lindenbaum is a good center if you're looking at what he did in college and what he tests, but it kind of worries me with how small he is. And then finally, you don't see Desmond Ritter here. You don't see Desmond Ritter here because I think possibly the Jaguars take Booth with that first pick in the 2nd round. So the Lions need to compensate a little bit and take him because the Jaguars have their quarterback. They're not going to take Ritter with their first pick in the 2nd round. They're going to want to take somebody else that's a difference maker. So Ritter goes in the 2nd round for their first pick, and you get him on a cheaper deal. It's not a first-round quarterback deal, so that's why I think they take Booth there.
All right, Jude. Well, I think you thought logically a lot of the times for your part of the draft. But we have to remember, there are some interesting GMs out there in the NFL, and they're not always going to think logically. Jude, do you know the last time the Eagles took a linebacker in the NFL draft in the first round?
We were talking about it a little bit. I had no clue before, but I believe it's 2014.
2014, Chip Kelly, when they ran the 3-4 defense. I bet everybody knows household name Marcus Smith out there. What an NFL legend that disappeared after a year or two. Didn't go so well for the Eagles. Now, in my mock draft, look, Aiden Hutchinson, I actually agree with you. I think I see a lot of recency bias. I don't necessarily know if he's the best player in this draft, but he's a safe pick. And the Jaguars do need safe picks. They need to build that foundation. And Aiden Hutchinson, I got him at number 1. Now, number 2 is interesting. There's been some rumors going around Kayvon Thibodeau. Dan Campbell, not really a big fan. Who knows how much validity is that? But you have Trayvon Walker, number 1. He's fantastic. Georgia national champions. Edge rushers are so valuable. We see him here at the 3 top picks. That leaves Thibodeau, who was at once the number 1 pick in the draft, going to the Texans. Now, moving down a little bit, we got Carolina going O-line. Giants getting the beloved Sauce Gardner. I know the Giants fans like that. He's the big, hot, sexy pick in the top 10 that a lot of people want. Receivers, Garrett Wilson. You said Drake London for them. I totally agree. Atlanta's a wide receiver factory, and after what happened with, their boy Calvin Ridley, I'm assuming in their draft interviews they really got into the heads of the receivers and made sure there's no hardcore gamblers out there. So Garrett Wilson, that's my guy. Maybe Drake London. Either way, I like your talk there. Malik Willis at 9 to the Seahawks. This is where my trade's going to come in. It's not the Seahawks making a move. It's the Saints getting a little nervous. The quarterbacks are starting going to the board. They get a little scary. Move up to get Matt Corral. Matt Corral, personally, my favorite quarterback in the draft. I like him best, even after the injury and all. Talk about Hamilton. He's great. In terms of you saw the Eagles in the corner. Derek Stingley, who I would think the Eagles really want, but I think he's going to go to 12 to the Vikings. That leaves Drake London falling to the Eagles, although I could see him, like you said, Jameson Williams at 16 going to the Jets, who we'll get to is in the trade with the Saints. They need a receiver as well. Moving on to the next board, we got Devontae Wyatt. Look, the Eagles don't take linebackers. I just told you it's been literally 8 years since they did that, and that was under the Chip Kelly regime, which we don't want to talk about that from the Eagles fans' perspective. So I like another D-line from Georgia. Eagles, it's almost like the Falcons with receivers. Eagles are kind of a D-line factory. They already have. They signed some guys in free agency. They brought back Derek Barnett, but they just love to rotate. Josh Sweat, they love guys on the D-line, so I think Devontae Wyatt here's a good pick. Your boy Kenny Pickett, look, I think it's written in the stars that Kenny Pickett's going to the Steelers, I think. And I think they can get him here at 20. I think they can just scoop him up, and I think that's an interesting pick. Chris Olave, same deal. I totally agree with you. Aaron Rodgers needs a quarterback. You referenced I liked Tyler Linderbaum, a little more of you. I think about Jason Kelsey. Iowa's an offensive line factory. I know the arms are short, but he's one of those guys, modern NFL day. He can get out. He can go through screens, get out, block guys downfield, and I think that's so important in the modern day NFL in the speed game. Treylon Burks to the Titans, a fantastic pick, I think, after the Julio Jones experiment didn't go so well. Devin Lloyd falling to the Packers, nice pick there. Then a little Penn State double dip for the Chiefs. A little bit wild, but I think it fits their needs. Jahan Dotson and Jaquan Brisker can slide in there. Some old teammates pairing up. And then I do have Desmond Ritter going. I like your logic, but the Jaguars could sell that first pick in the second round. And honestly, with quarterbacks, if the Lions do want Ritter, they're going to want to just guarantee that they're going to get him, and they can get him right here. So that is my first round in total.
Yeah, I say you guys had some pretty good picks on here. I agree with you, Jude, about Kenny Pickett. Pittsburgh not really needing a quarterback, but like you said, it's written in the stars. I do hope the Saints pick one, though, because we desperately need some more of those. Trades are notorious on draft day. Mac, I'll start with you. What is your biggest trade this year?
Yeah, so everyone was scratching their heads when the Saints made this bizarre trade a couple weeks ago. I feel like it might have faded from some people's mind, where they traded a first-round pick in next year's draft, which a lot of people are saying is going to be a better quarterback draft. We could see Bryce Young. We could see C.J. Stroud next year. A little higher-ranked guys than in this year. And the Saints traded their first round next year to get an extra first-round pick in this year's draft. Now, what this reminds me of is when the Eagles moved from 14 to 8. Everybody was confused back in the Carson Wentz draft, then used 8 to step up to 2. So I think the Saints are kind of doing something similar to that here, where they got that extra pick in this year's draft in order to make the next step to move up even further and get their quarterback. So I have the Saints trading away picks 16 and 19 and an extra third rounder next year for that pick number 10, where they will take Matt Corral. And they will also receive a second-round pick next year and a sixth-round pick next year, because there's always those late draft picks thrown into these kinds of trades. I think the Jets, it actually really works out for them, because the Jets are they already have their franchise quarterback, right? And they can use this leverage. They're trying to build out, take different pieces. We're assuming that the the Falcons, rather, at 8 took a big-name receiver already off the board. And Jets moving back, they can take another one. Jameson Williams, I love him. Jude had the Eagles taking him in the draft. I think all these receivers are pretty close. I don't think there's one standing out of all the others, like me and Jamar Chase last year. And then Jordan Davis, another nice pick. I think building out that Jets roster around Zach Wilson be really nice for them. And the Saints, a little bit of a gamble. Jameson Winston's 28, and he did play well before getting hurt last year. I just don't see him as a long-term option. And yeah, it goes back to why would they make that trade with the Eagles, sacrificing future assets if they don't want to take the next step and move up and take their quarterback, Matt Corral, who, again, I think is the best quarterback in this draft and could pan out really well. A little bit of a head-scratcher from the Saints all in all, but I think this is their logic, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and for me, I talked about it a little bit earlier. I have the Panthers and Seahawks making a draft day trade, and as Mac said, I'm thinking logically. I think this is a perfect team for trade for both teams, but it most likely won't happen. If you look at it, the Seahawks have probably the worst O-line in the NFL right now. Russell Wilson was back there, probably one of the best escape artists in the NFL. He was sacked 222 times since 2017. That is about 3 sacks per game. I don't care if you have Brady back there, game manager, or if you have prime Michael Vick, probably one of the best escape artists back there. He's still getting sacked 3 or 4 times a game. And that's why they need to go O-line. Pete Carroll's been on record saying that he likes what Drew Lock has to offer. He's still in the pre-draft stages, whatever that means. But I think Pete Carroll likes what Drew Lock has to offer, but he has to prove it. So he's in a prove-it year, of course, and people call it the prove-it year deals. But next year's draft is something that they really should look at for quarterback-wise. The Seahawks are probably going to be the worst team in the NFL next year based on their roster. They're set up horribly, and they'll definitely be, in my opinion, probably bottom 5. And who knows, maybe they'll trade DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett towards the middle of the season at the trade deadline while their value's sky high. For the Panthers, if you look at it, they could trade back and they could get a quarterback that they want. It could be Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, anybody. Because I don't think anybody in front of them is going to draft a QB because everybody's kind of set up. Besides Atlanta. Atlanta could take a quarterback, but I think that they're going to take a step back. They think they're probably going to be bad, and they're going to try and go for one of the better quarterbacks next year. But I think it's perfect for them. They trade back. They get a couple picks in this year and next year's draft for some capital to maybe trade up, and you get the quarterback that you potentially want. You start Darnold a little bit. He's probably not going to play well, so then you throw him into the mix, throw him into the fire, throw him to the wolves. Say, all right, Malik, it's your time to shine. And like I said with the Seahawks, they need O-line, and Cross is probably the best pass blocker in this draft, and that's what you need to protect your franchise quarterbacks, whether that be Drew Lock this year or they take Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or even someone else next year. Who knows? But I think they need to go O-line with this first pick.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this year's draft and the trades that are going to happen. We will have to wait just one more week and see where all these prospects land. Thanks for tuning in to the 4th edition of Penn State Sports Night Mock Draft. For Mac Young and Jude Wozniak, I'm CheRanda Hammond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you're going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.